Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today. This is actually coming from the EU server. The following footage is going to be my survival mode run from 1 through 30. We'll just showing rounds 29 30, but I made kind of a mad dash to gear up on the EU side, so I was able to run survival mode. So as you can see, my spec in the following video, I'm still spec the same as a battle troll, but as you can see, my gear is severely less than it is on the US side. Blue gear, green gear, I got some regular set here. I've got the claw, amulet, and venomist all at 120 because I obviously can't afford 160 on the EU server because I got pretty much nothing in my inventory. No OP items. Bought obviously the green crystal turret. So I'm sitting at around 22,000 prec, 11,000 vit. And I still have obviously the flex buffs and stuff like that, but it's just showing you that puts me at about 268 CR as well, 267 CR because I was not wearing the trinket, because obviously my utility belt is 226 CR, so I have to wear the purple drop to bring that CR up from 267. So it's just showing you that you don't necessarily need to be max gear for survival mode, especially as a troll or a healer. It's more so on the tanks, but even then, once you reach a certain point in survival mode, gear is kind of pointless anyway because you're just going to die regardless. So the following footage is going to be 29 30 on the EU with my crappy gear here. Take care, guys. Enjoy. Okay, so what I wanted to cover in this video in terms of a commentary is more so what I expect and what I would like to see in the next season of survival mode. I do plan on doing a video at the end of survival mode when it finishes, probably towards the end of the month, covering a tanking controversy that's happened in this survival mode, because I don't want to, I can't do it now because the footage that I'm going to show in it is going to be borderline exploiting in my mind and minds of other tanks, so I certainly don't want to show that footage while survival mode is still going on, or groups are just going to do it. So that'll be coming out at the end of the month. I'll probably do like a recap when they give us the crowns or whatever their ceremony is, or whatever, how the devs are handling that. But for this video, I want to go on what we need to see in the next season of survival mode to kind of build upon this, because while 4-man was a unique concept, and while some of the boss choices I don't agree with here, it certainly is a really great foundation to build on. Obviously none of the devs that from this current team were around, well, except technically Milbarge, but he wasn't working on the survival mode back then. So really this is a new fresh look at survival mode from a new developer team compared to the old ones, and overall it is a great job. Yes, there's a little bit more bugs than there should have been, but it was pretty rushed from test server. It was only on test server like a week and a half. Like essentially when they announced survival mode, it was pretty much set to come out the way it was. They did some minor tweaking, but it certainly needs more proper time on test, because it's survival mode. Like you need 4 players, or at least in this season, you need 4 players on test server, all that were good enough to do high rounds. Like that's very rare that's going to happen. I think there was only 2 or 3 groups on test server doing it. Mostly it was myself and most of Platts. There might have been some other leagues as well doing lower rounds, but there wasn't too many people trying to do like 20 plus on test server, which is what you need to do for damage scaling and bugs and stuff like that. So I think certainly we need a bigger window on test server to kind of hammer out some of these glitches that happened this SM that were unfortunate. So definitely, I think for this SM and for going forward, we certainly have to have some better boss choices. So I would like to see ones that have more danger to the group. Now basically this survival mode focused on dangers to the tank. So basically the tank's job was much harder than any other role in this SM. Like healers had to heal, but really the healers, as you can see in round 29, round 30, some of the other rounds, you're just sitting at the back of the room out of range because you don't want to die. It's a really boring role to play healer. You're just sitting back out of danger, out of combat. You can do the odd flurry shot and drop an orbital, but really your job is to stay out of combat and just kind of hit the odd heal. And even healing, there's hardly any bosses that have damage over times or anything like that. So really it's just massive spike damage, which you're covering basically by shields or by orb heals or some quick burst. So it's really not even that stressful as a healer, where in past SMs you had the issue was that healers had to spam back to back, like empty their power bar to heal the entire group and tanks, especially on ad rounds. So that became much more of a stressful case for healers back then. But this has been much more relaxed, boring, borderline boring from a healer role. And then really from a tanking perspective, sorry, as a controlling perspective and like a backup tank or a DPS, really you're just sitting in the center doing flurry shot while the tank moves the boss around the edges. That's really essentially all you do, especially in round 29. Round 29 only takes like maybe 30-35 minutes, but it feels like it takes like an hour and a half. Like, it's definitely the most boring round ever, especially 29, because it takes forever. At least it feels like it takes forever. Like, even round 30 was about 35 minutes. And that 35 minutes goes by pretty quick. But round 29 just feels like it takes forever, even though it really doesn't. Same thing with like 25. Felt like it take forever too, just because you're running back out of range from the Shadow Vortex when he's in the pools. So it just feels like it takes forever because he's doing that like every 30 seconds. But what I mean by that is we need more bosses. Like, say, like from Gods and Monsters, if they would have had like the Phoenix, if they would have had the Harpy, if they would have had the Gorgon, like, or what's that? I forget the Gorgon, but it's the boss that's in the final of the alert that the Minotaur is from. I forget what the alert's called, but whatever. It's that boss. Like, they would have the snake tail whip. They would have like the ads would come out. They would have the turn to stone. It would summon the Phoenix halfway through. You know, you need bosses that have dangers to the group, so it's not just boring for the other 3 roles or the other 2 roles if they're going to do another format, and just have all the pressure on the tanks. If the tanks die, it could pretty much be a wipe. Or you have the battle tank, which is basically, you know, as long as the main tank doesn't die, the battle tank's just flourish on the entire time. So you need to have bosses that create more danger to the group. Like, Lex is okay from that perspective, but we've all seen Lex before, or most people have, and Lex's mechanics are pretty much like brain dead easy in terms of his laugh, his bunker buster, his laser. You know, they're hugely telegraphed. So while it does have dangers to the group or present a risk to the group, really it's pretty much the easiest kind of risk you can get. Ultimate Soldier is good, and so is Vampire Lord. Vampire Lord has plenty of attacks that can kill the group. You've got to watch the pools rotations. You've got to watch his ad summoning. Ultimate Soldier's got the flamethrower, the mortars, the bombs, stuff like that. So those are good examples. So the entire group has to be aware of the positioning. Like, bad examples would be like Deathstroke, Black Manta, Baron Savage. Like, even Baron Savage's skull, yeah, you have to block it, but even if you block it around what's Baron Savage, 23? So that, yeah, 23. So even around 23, if you block his skull, you don't get one shot. It's not like Arc Lightning, which you get one shot through block, or the laser on Manta, you get one shot through block. Well, not really one shot, but you die through block. It still hits you for like 30k. So it's like, well, as long as you block, you're completely fine. There's no risk. Like, Baron Savage was harder in JFA Elite than it was actually in survival mode. So I think ultimately it's just the boss choices that they chose. There's just too many freebie rounds. So by having the next SM, having more concentration on bosses, like, even you set it up so it's always a hard boss before a progress point round, because if they're going to keep doing I do agree with progress points. I don't necessarily agree with them for the higher rounds. It basically, yes, it's adding technically artificial difficulty by having less progress points, but it's something we're all used to before. Like, if you can barely make it to 29, boom, you beat 28, thank God you're on 29. Instead of having to start back at, like, 23 or 22 and do them all over again, which is basically the long grind of survival mode, which we're used to in the past. Oh, you just get to start at 29. So obviously, if SM goes to 30, if you're on progress point 29, it stands a really good chance you're going to beat that thrive mode, because you can consistently start fresh, full supercharged, relaxed, no one's tired. You can keep doing 29 and attempting 30 for the rest of the month or the rest of a couple weeks until whoever survival mode ends. Like, there's a pretty good chance you're going to beat that round. Even if it just comes down to luck, you're going to pass it. Where before, if you wanted to go into FOSS and beat that, you need to start at round, it had to go 18. What was it, 20? I forget when the last progress point was. 21? 25, I think. Yeah, 25. So you had to do like 26, 27, 28, 29, or not 29. Come on, think about it, because obviously those went to 20. But yeah, if a progress point for the higher runs stopped at 25, each time you wanted to attempt 30, if they're going to do that, you'd have to beat 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, or they could do 26 and do 4 rounds. But that's how they have to do it if they want to keep that difficulty. Because it puts more strain on the group, because it's going to be like a 2 or 3 hour grind to get to 30, and if you wipe, you got to start all over again, instead of saying, oh yeah, every couple of rounds you get to restart and have an attempt. So if they want to keep the competitiveness to just the higher rounds, so like rounds, if they're going to keep the 30 structure, rounds 1 through 10, 10 through 20, that's completely fine. 1 through 10 should be really easy, should be for everyone. not like a cakewalk, but 1 through 10 should be really easy. I think 1 through 10 were a little bit harder this time around. I think they need to tone down the difficulty 1 through 10. 10 through 20 should be like okay difficulty. But in terms, it doesn't need to be overkill. Maybe, as 1920 could be a bit overkill, but 20 through 30 should definitely be much harder. Like, because of the freebie rounds, once you beat 20, okay, 21, 22, 23, cakewalks. You're not gonna fail on Lex. You're not gonna fail on King Shark. King Shark's tornadoes, you don't even have to proc. You can go an entire round in 22 without even one tornado from King Shark procking. That's just on the tank. 23 Baron Savage. Once again, cakewalk. How are you going to die to Baron Savage unless the tank's just dumb and dies to a melee attack? 24 presents a little bit of risk with Johnny Quick and his clones and stuff. Like, you can have bad luck there. But once again, 25 and 26, cakewalk. You're not going to die in Deathstroke. You're not going to die in Black Manta. Once again, unless you just overly confident or going cocky, you can easily play that safe. And then 27, 28, you have a chance to die in Minotaur, but not a huge chance. It's just a really long fight. Some more stuff can happen, and if a tank messes up on his focus blast. And then obviously 28 and 29 are present the difficulty. So it's just how they structure it. In terms of 8-man versus 4-man, I don't know, I'm kind of torn on that. I personally like the 8-man because it provides more setups for the group. Yes, it's harder to form. Yes, it's limiting to some players because it's obviously a lot harder to form an 8-man group versus a 4-man for SM, but I think if they kind of alternated, so like, season 1 was 4-man, season 2 was 8-man, season 3 was 4-man, I think that would be beneficial because it exposes new players to an 8-man survival mode as well. They're all used to the 4 and what the 4 brings, but now let's do them 8 so they can kind of see the difference. Because then you have multiple tank setups, you have multiple healer setups, you have actually a useful for the power troll. You could always have a battle troll being just providing damage and providing the claw buffs. So then you have a DPS run as a support battle troll. You can still have battle tanks, multiple healers, multiple healer power sets. So instead of this SM favoring water, it could be like a water celestial combination or nature, whatever have you may be. But 8-man presents more opportunities for the group to strategize, to form specific combinations that are going to be more successful in those rounds. So I think we certainly need to see at least an 8-man come just to experience what an 8-man SM would be like after a stats revamp. If it doesn't work out, fine, go back to 4-man. But I think certainly we need to see an 8-man in season 2. That's for sure. In regards to rewards, I think the rewards are perfect. They just need to keep that as many rewards that people can to run it. There'll be people like, you think about it like this time, you had custom horns on the Minotaur, you had the Heat Vision Orbital Strike on Ultraman, you had the Shadow Strike Orbital on Vampire Lord, you had those materials, you had those auras, you had all the pets and trinkets. Tons of unique rewards for this survival. That's what they have to do to get people involved, to get people to want to run it. I just don't think it should be as on-farmable as this. I do agree with them costing a lot of marks because you have the one vendor that obviously is going to stay each season, and the other season is going to be those specific rewards. So worry about that, and then try to get out some marks. They could always do double SM mark weekends. Like, I'm not opposed to that either, but I think the way their model is right now for having just a whole bunch of rewards, that's going to be beneficial going forward. That's what they need to have for the next survival mode as well, because that's what's going to get everyone involved. If you have a survival mode in the past where it's just like a title or like a base item, really it's going to discourage some people because they don't want to put in that much effort and that much coordination, that much basically stress, you could say, over little rewards. But if it's going to be worthwhile rewards, like having like the Shadow Bat trinket, which is one of the best trinkets in the game, being from round 25, so not everyone's going to get to round 25. So you feel a little bit better that you have that trinket because you reached round 25. It's more of like an accomplishment. The Gold Crown, because the tanking controversy, that's really not going to be as special as it once was, because there's going to be probably 15, 20 leagues groups that are going to beat this round 30 because of that. But the concept behind it, where you have the scaling rewards like bronze, silver, and gold for reaching the highest tiers, once again, that's a great concept as well, because in the previous SMs, all we had is a round 20 title, and no one, by looking at your title, no one knows, oh yeah, you beat survival mode, that's awesome. And they definitely shouldn't bring back the old styles, that's for sure, because once again, those styles are earned. They could bring in more styles if they wanted, but I think they're going to stick towards like materials and ores and stuff like that, rather than making like SM specific styles again. But really, that's about it in terms of what Season 2 needs. Like, it wasn't that bad. Like, yes, there was some issues, glitches and stuff like that. But once again, that's just out of our hands and attributed to the lower testing. But I think overall, it was a nice surprise. I didn't expect... Well, I did expect survival mode to turn out like this in terms of 4-man being very specific. Like, once you know a 4-man, 4-mans are geared towards shields and a shield meta, so obviously I knew water is going to be much beneficial for the higher rounds, because obviously you've got a lot of power resetting the cooldowns on your 2 stacking shields, and you can reset with high tide on the 4-man, so you can do like bubble, riptide, bubble, and have a 4-man and then another 4-man. When that 4-man expires, you can clip them together with Tempest Guard. Flood of Power is also an amazing personal shield, so water is just completely overpowered just for this 4-man survival mode. If you put water in like an elite raid, it's not as unbalanced compared to like Celestial or Nature and any other healer, but in a 4-man setup, it's just crazy. Same thing with gadgets with Decoy. If the tank goes down, Decoy is just completely overpowered for a 4-man setup. And then obviously the precision versus might imbalance as well. So it's just those little things are magnified because it's a 4-man, where they wouldn't be as greatly magnified if it was an 8-man. And then in terms of boss choices, just if you had bosses that presented more of a risk to the group, like like the Harpies, like the Gorgons, like if they're going to pick like an SM theme, then they need to kind of tailor the bosses around that. But there's so many bosses they can choose from. I think they just kind of picked the wrong pool. Like if they want to do, another thing they could do is like have the same bosses from 1 through 10, 10 through 20, and then different bosses from 10 to 30, so that those high round players can't build strategies and setups to counter their experience of 1 through 20. Then they'll have a brand new experience, brand new bosses they aren't used to. I think that would be a great setup as well, just to kind of keep players guessing. But I think for the average player doing survival mode and experiencing it, I think this SM got it right. It's just for the end game players, like the people expecting the high round survival mode, it just missed the mark on that. Partially because of the tanking controversy, but partially just because of how many freebie and boring rounds it was, which just came down to boss choices as well as the ads as well. So I think with some minor tweaks, Season 2 could certainly be very successful, and that's what I certainly look forward to. So hopefully the devs listen to our feedback, and in terms of when Season 2 would come or when it would be released, that I can't answer. I don't really, what I think survival mode should be is kind of like the halfway mark between a DLC. So a DLC comes out, a couple months after the DLC. That's when people start to get bored and there's not as much stuff to do. Then drop survival mode for a month. So basically, in like a 4 or 5, like probably a 5-month DLC cycle. You've got 2 months of the DLC, then you got a month of SM, then you got another month of like a seasonal or something like that to kill time, and then you have another DLC release. So I think once again that's a good pattern to have for SM, to have it kind of in the middle mark. But overall, I'm sure, I hope you guys have enjoyed this survival mode, and hopefully you guys have gotten a good experience for it, because I know there's plenty of players out there that have never experienced survival mode before. So this, in retrospect to like Oa, Trigon, Happiness Home, and Fortress of Solitude, this is the easiest SM we've ever had, but it's more so because of other stuff going on behind the scenes rather than the SM itself. So take care, guys. Thanks for watching. If you got any comments or what you would like to see in this future survival mode or future Season 2s, leave them in the comment section below. And then if the devs ever ask for my feedback, I can kind of forward your feedback as well. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching as always.